And in the Return to Learn, we continue to speak with local district leaders as schools get set for the fall semester amid that surge in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations. This morning, we are happy to be joined by Boonville Superintendent Dr. Sarah Marriott. Thank you, Dr. Marriott, for being on with us this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
So the CDC recommends everyone in school buildings wear masks. The #1 mitigation measure in your district's plan says instruction, monitoring, and encouragement of universal and correct wearing of masks. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, so we are recommending that all students and staff members, regardless of vaccination status, wear masks throughout the day, at least when they're in indoor spaces and when they're unable to socially distance from others. And with that, we're going to continue to provide instruction to our students and staff on what is the best way to wear a mask, what's the proper way, so that it's an effective tool and strategy that we're utilizing in our district.
Now, a parent who actually went to open house last night expressed some concerns about the safety protocols in place at that back to school event. They said in a room of about more than 50 adults and kids, they saw about 10 people wearing masks. Can you speak to the safety protocols taken at that event and how classroom precautions might differ next week?
Right, absolutely. And we want to make sure that we're recognizing and respecting people's concerns. This is a difficult time for all of our families as well as our staff, and it's at times difficult to know and make those good judgments. And so what we're implementing again is that we encourage people to wear masks. We're not requiring them, but we highly encourage those to wear masks. When students get in the classroom, we're going to make sure that we have spacing between the students, that we are keeping students in cohorts whenever possible, and that we're doing those good, just general health and safety measures, frequent cleaning, lots of hand washing, and practicing those strategies and measures throughout the day. So we're going to implement the strategies in the best way that we can, and know that at times they're kids and they're not always going to maybe make the best judgments, or they're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. And we're just going to work around that and encourage and reteach as necessary.
And you're also dealing with the tale of two worlds here. As we were just talking about, students under 12 still can't get vaccinated against COVID-19. Will elementary education look different from middle and high school with that?
Yes, it will. And those are some of the lessons that I think we learned last year with our elementary students. We were able to implement some strategies that were really effective. For instance, we were able to keep kids in smaller cohorts in the elementary. That's much more manageable in an elementary setting than a high school setting. We had breakfast in the classroom for elementary, so that, eliminated lots of children in a confined, in a smaller space at one time. And those are some of the strategies that we're planning to implement again at the elementary level. Of course, we're going to make sure that we're, taking good attendance measures, who's present, so that if we do have to do any contact tracing, it's accurate, and we're reporting that information accurately. But those are some things that are much easier to manage in an elementary school building. And so we'll continue to implement those strategies as well.
Similar to last year, your district has different levels of instruction depending on what's happening with the virus. The blue and green tiers are fully in person, yellow is hybrid. It includes a mask requirement for staff in grades 6 through 12, and then red is full distance learning. What tier are you starting out with on Monday, and how will you decide if you need to move to a different one?
So we are going to be starting on the green tier, which means that we do have some cases present in our community, and we have health precautions in place, which include recommended mask use. We have a great relationship with our local health department, and they provide us ongoing updated information about number of cases in the community, how many are specific to the district, and how many are impacting our district. And so we'll continue that communication with them, and that will certainly help guide our decision if we need to make any shifts in the tiers.
And your plan also includes setting up an isolation room for students who may have COVID. Can you give us an idea of how that will work?
Yes, so each of the buildings has a health office, obviously, but with that, we have identified an isolated space in which that if a student is demonstrating or displaying symptoms of COVID, and that can include staff members as well, that we want to make sure that we are isolating them so that we can reduce the transmission or the possible transmission of COVID to other students and our staff. And so that will be a safe area in which is monitored, but will be an area in which students can wait until parents arrive for pickup.
And at what point would you test the students for the virus at the district? Is parental permission required for that?
So we are not testing students for the virus at the district, but we will certainly provide information to parents as to if they want to seek testing. We can share with them where they can go and have those tests accomplished.
And are you keeping track of who is vaccinated against COVID-19 and who isn't?
That is information that is shared on an individual basis. And so if a parent or a student or a staff member wants to share that information, we can't require it, but we can certainly ask if they would like to share that information. And so our health offices maintain all of our vaccination information. Of course, that's protected by HIPAA and following those guidelines, but they will keep that information and then share it as appropriate.
I noticed your district is planning for how to keep students from falling behind when they have to isolate or quarantine, including tutoring, access to classes virtually, and even mental health and social emotional support. When a student does test positive or is a close contact, what will that look like for them?
Well, that has been a significant concern of ours for the past 18 months, is that we want to make sure that kids aren't falling behind. And some of the strategies that we're putting in place is, one, immediately reaching out to that family. How can we help and assist you? And then offering several options for our kids so they can Zoom into the classrooms so that they can receive that live instruction if they feel up to that. We will also record all of our classes so that students can log in and have access. They will have a lot of technology tools that they can use to keep them updated, as well as we want to, from the very beginning of the year, start offering tutoring to our students, regardless of, whether they're in quarantine or affected by COVID this year or not. We know that there's going to be challenges with that, and just trying to give our kids every opportunity that they can have to be successful this year.
And last year, we routinely covered statewide shortages and substitute teachers and bus drivers. As you head into the fall, what is the staffing situation looking like in Boonville?
Well, unfortunately, I think we're in a very similar position as we were last year. We are constantly looking for substitutes. We know that we're going to have staff out this year. We are currently advertising and encouraging. It was very encouraging to us that the DESE has allowed substitutes as a permanent rule, that they can do the 20 hours of training rather than 60 college credit hours. That was very helpful to us last year. So we're hoping to continue some of those recruitment efforts and just do the best that we can to manage every single day.
And how many students are virtually enrolled in MOCAP this year instead of doing in-person education?
Currently, we only have about 10 students, K through 12, enrolled in MOCAP. I believe that that is a significant decline from the past year. So, that is a great option for some families and for some students. So we're glad that we can offer that option and continue with that, but then also, continue, of course, to provide a very high quality in-person education.
And it feels like we should know more about this virus going into this school year, and we do from last year. However, with variants such as Delta emerging and debates over vaccinations and masks still, we're also in muddy waters. How is that uncertainty affecting Boonville?
Well, it's absolutely something that's at the forefront of our mind, but our strategy and philosophy, the past 18 months has been that we have to figure out how to manage it. This isn't going to be the last virus or the last challenge that we see as a district. And so we need to do whatever we can to make sure that student learning and safety is our focus, and that we are not going to be defined this year by COVID. There are a lot more important pieces, not that we're disregarding the importance of COVID and the impact that it has on our district, but our priority is how are we going to educate kids if they're here or if they're virtual, and what are we going to do to make sure that we're keeping our kids safe? So we're just trying to really keep that at the forefront of our mind and all of our decision making.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have this morning. Once again, we want to thank you, Dr. Marriott, for being on with us, and have a great first day of school on Monday.
Thank you so much.